isn't just about numbers. Math vocabulary is important to understanding mathematical concepts and processes. If math language isn't explicitly taught, students are going to learn to disregard math words and only pay attention to the numbers. In today's episode, I'm sharing some of my favorite tips for teaching math vocabulary in your classroom. Stay tuned. What's kicking, educational rock stars? Welcome back to another episode of Teaching Made Easy. I'm Farah, the Center Fairy, your ultimate source into the wonderful world of simple classroom systems that actually work so that you can finally get back to what you love, teaching. If this is your first time joining me here on the channel, be sure you hit that like and that subscribe button and click that bell so that you get notified when I go live or upload a new video here on the channel. I am so excited to be talking to you today about math vocabulary because it is one of the things that I absolutely loved teaching in my classroom. And I'm going to share with you 4 tips on making math vocabulary easier to learn for your students. The first tip is to model using math language that is kid-friendly. Modeling the correct use of math language is important for students to fully grasp their meaning. Always use precise wording when you're talking about math ideas and concepts. For example, when teaching about area, you're going to want to be precise that you're talking about the space inside a shape. If you're teaching fractions and the student refers to the denominator as the bottom number, be sure to correct it for them and use the precise, correct vocabulary. It also helps with testing if you research how they're going to see words used based on the assessments so that they get used to hearing and seeing the words that they're going to need to know. The second tip is to pre-teach words explicitly. When we teach vocabulary and language arts, we don't expect students to understand them on their own. We isolate them, help them sound them out, giving them definitions, and even using them in context. We should be doing the same for math vocabulary. Math vocabulary should be taught explicitly, defined, shown in context, and examples provided. Students need to hear math words and practice using them multiple times before they become a part of their natural language. It's also important to make the context something that the students can relate to. For example, if you're teaching perimeter, don't just say that it's a boundary around an object or shape. Instead, tell students that it's the distance around an object or shape and then relate it to something that the students have maybe experienced in their real lives, such as the fence around a yard. Students will then start to make connections to other instances in their lives that the vocabulary relates to. Now, my next tip is to use a math word wall. Having a place that students can reference their math vocabulary while they're learning can help students tremendously. The math word wall is a great tool to have in your classroom, and there are some things that you're going to want to pay attention to when you're creating it. First, make sure that you're using kid-friendly language in a large enough font that students can read it from anywhere in the room. Next, make sure that you're using meaningful images that demonstrate the use of that math vocabulary and provide some context. For example, with perimeter, I might have an image of a backyard with arrows going around the fence. This image is going to provide context and real-life examples of the word. Now, my 4th tip is to use math journals with your students. In addition to having a word wall in the room for current vocabulary being taught, having a place for students to collect their vocabulary can definitely help. Students can record, illustrate, demonstrate, and practice math vocabulary inside their math journals as a tool and reference to use throughout the year. At the end of a lesson, students can reflect on their learning by answering prompts in their journals. Some of these prompts might be things like, what did I learn today? What was a problem that I solved today? And what are 2 ways that I could have solved this problem? As students write about their vocabulary they just learned and specifically how they solved problems using that vocabulary, they are reflecting on the new math concept as well as practicing their writing skills. Your students might struggle to understand and use correct, precise words when explaining their learning in math. But by introducing new vocabulary through explicit instruction, using the vocabulary in context and meaningful examples, and providing a way for students to record their learning for future reference, you can put your students on the path to success. Now, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and simple systems to take back into your classroom to make your teacher life a little easier, check out the videos on your screen. Thanks for watching and keep being an educational rock star.